For those of you that are into macro photography, I've got really the ultimate in macro gear here. This is the Castle Cross Q dual axis focusing rack system. It's made up of two Castel Q focusing racks, which I'll show you closer in a second. Both of these racks have an Arca Swiss type dovetail on the bottom that allows you to mount it to any type of Arca Swiss quick mount. I've got a Novoflex quick mount here on top of my Ball 30 and a trio pod. And I've got this little tableau here of a leaf and some bark. I disturbed a spider web and there's a spider right up here hanging out waiting for me to get the heck out of here. But let's take a look and see what the capabilities are. Now I've got a 24-70 lens, but I've got two extension tubes on it that make focusing very close. And you don't have a lot of depth of field, even if you stop down when you do this. So you really want to make sure you get it right. I've got the camera turned on manual focus so that it focuses where I want. And the beauty of having a dual rack system like this is rather than have to touch the camera, I can simply move up and down. I can move a little further away. I can move a little closer here. And then for composition, if I really want to make sure things are right and not have to touch anything, I can turn the top rack and move that. Now these are very smooth moving. Let's take a closer look at the Castle Cross Q system. As you can see, I've got the two systems right here, the two focusing racks. They're basically two identical Castel Q focusing racks. So this is what opens and closes the Arca Swiss style clamp right here. This knob will lock this plate in place. So I loosen this. This knob allows traveling of the plate. So if this is the only plate you were using, this allows you to adjust your composition and zoom by moving up and back. When you get it in the right spot, you can just lock it in place. Now what makes this really unique is the ability to have the second plate. So I'll take the second one, I'll put it right in there, and I'll tighten it down using the Arca Swiss tightener on the back here. So now I have dual ability. I have the ability to get close and back. I also have the ability to go left and right. So with the bottom plate, I can move the entire system front and back. You can see there we go there. And then up here, I have the ability to go left and right. And when you're doing really close focusing work, it can be real annoying to have to try to move your camera, move your tripod ball head in order to get things in the right place. This allows you to fine tune your composition and your zoom and your cropping all without moving anything. It's a very fine movement. The ultimate in positioning as far as macro work goes. And one other use you might not have thought of. Well, it's a macro system, but it's also an extended plate. So I'm going to take this apart again because you can also use this when you're doing panoramic photography. If you're concerned about the nodal point, and the nodal point is the optical center of your camera system. Why do you care about the nodal point? Well, if everything you're focusing on is 50 or 100 yards out, maybe mountain scenes, not important. The software will stitch it together just fine. But if you've got something very close to you, say something 3 or 4 feet in front of you, plus you have those distant mountains, and you try to rotate your camera, if your camera is mounted on the body, that thing in the front is going to end up getting split up and bent as you do that rotation because it's not the optical center of the camera. You need to find that rotation point. Typically, the shorter the lens, the closer the rotation point is to the front of the lens. So mounting the camera body in the middle of the tripod isn't going to work. So I'll get my camera here, go ahead and mount it to the plate. All right. And then ideally, first thing I would do actually would be to level this thing, but let's just make it quick. I'll just get this so a place you can see it. I'll release the rotation knob, and I happen to know that this lens at 24 millimeters, the rotation point is about this line on the lens, right with a focusing knob. So I'm going to just move up a little bit so it's there, lock it into place, and now as I rotate around and take my pictures, the stitches will line up the distant objects and the close-up objects because I've found the nodal point. So there you have it, a combination, the ultimate in macro photography compositional aids, the Castle Cross Q, and you can also take one of them and use it as a single focusing rack or use it for something like this as an extended rack for doing your panoramic photography. Very cool piece of gear. If you're into macro, something you really want to have. The Castle Cross Q focusing rack system.